Hey, what's going on, YouTube? So we're in the last little bit of our KVK here. We've got a pretty strong defensive position here across the river. Seems like every one of our seasons comes down to some epic bridge fights. We're trying to hold this position so that we can prevent an advance on our Zone 3 rewards here. You know, we got the Hydra right there, and more importantly, we have the Necro Giant. The Necro Giant is sort of the secondary reward this season, right? If you hold one Necro Giant, you get one Amber. Um, the dragon, no surprise here. Pod holds the dragon completely securely. They'll get that. No change in that now. Seems likely we're going to hold on to the Necro Giant and the Hydra. There's not much time left, and I think the intensity of our defense here is just too much to push through in the little time that there is left in this season. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about an interesting tactic I've seen lately. I think it is pretty clever, and it's a way to sort of tilt the rally Bastion fight in your favor, even more in favor of the rally versus the Bastion versus the Garrison, right? Okay, now like I mentioned in my previous video, the rally has the advantage in the meta right now for a few reasons. Most importantly, the rally leader can never die, whereas the Bastion leader can, the Garrison leader can die, and so you have to swap out the Garrison captain frequently during a long fight. Now, that is a huge advantage for the rally, but the Bastion, there is one silver lining to that, in that when you change out the Bastion leadership, you get a report for everything that happened during that Bastion leadership. And the advantage to that is you can see how the rally Bastion fight's going, and you can see, hey, this is good, let's keep it going, or do we need to make changes? Anyway, so we were in this Bastion fight a little while ago, and like I said, we'd been doing pretty well. I went to change out my Garrison. I looked at the report and it was like, yikes, not only are we losing, we're getting clapped. What's going on here? Okay, so what exactly is this tactic? Well, it has to deal with Kuma here, and specifically his rage skill, which drains both the target as well as nearby enemy legions near the target, okay? So imagine you have a Bastion fight where both the rally and the Garrison leads have Kuma in it, and honestly that's very common, you see that most of the time. The rally is looking for enemies near the Bastion, and the Bastion is looking for enemies near the rally. And if they find additional enemies other than their target near their target, the rally or the Garrison, etc., gets additional hit points. Okay, that's very strong for a few reasons. First of all, like, hit points intrinsically is good, particularly in an infantry fight, but there's a bunch of additional synergies here as well. Kuma's second skill gives him additional healing based on his infantry HP bonus. Honestly, healing in this kind of fight is not a huge deal, but it's still a positive. You'd like to have it. Then you have the Moss Rock itself. The Moss Rock's coil. The second damage factor scales with the infantry HP bonus. So as you get more infantry HP, the Moss Rock is going to do more damage. All right. In addition, you have the Serpent's Edge. Its passive effect can benefit from the HP drain. And then probably most importantly is the effect on Lei Quan himself, right? Because his rage skill, 1700 damage factor, that's pretty good to start with, but it scales with the infantry HP bonus. So as you get more and more HP, that makes both the Kuma and Lei Quan, rally, Garrison, whatever, stronger and stronger, independent of just getting the HP itself, right? So it is a very powerful effect. And this is why your war leader was screaming at you to get away from the rally, to get away from the Garrison. There'll times will come where you want to like swarm the rally or swarm the Garrison, but other than that, the common tactic, let this rally Garrison fight, breathe, have its space, and then stay far away until it was come time to swarm it down. Okay, so what's that hidden tactic? Well, if the enemy is staying away from your rally or from your Garrison in order to avoid giving your, rally or Garrison Kuma's HP drain effect, you create that effect for them, right? You put a bunch of infantry. Let's say you're the rally, you put a bunch of infantry sitting, just near the Bastion outside of the cleave range from Lei Quan, but Kuma's sort of like, his drain effect is sort of like a circle around his target. His target's the Bastion. These infantry you see here, they're in the range of that drain effect, and so Kuma is draining them. All right, now you might say, hey, he only drains enemy legions. This is pretty simple, right? You put your legions in an alliance that's not in your warband. The example on the screen here you see right now, you see these enemy legions there in Pod 3. What they did was they took Pod 3 out of the warband just for a bit in order to trigger this effect, and it was very powerful. It made their rally very strong versus the Garrison. Okay, now I'll show you an example of how significant this can be. This is from a rally Bastion fight we had just this morning. You'll see FR is rallying our Bastion here, and then Pod, their ally, our enemy, is during the fight is going to move a number of infantry legions on top of the Bastion to allow FR to take advantage of this terrain effect. Some pretty small differences, but you can see early in the battle. I'll just show you some snapshots here. The HP between the rally and the garrison, pretty similar. Okay, at about a minute in, you'll see pods start to move these infantry legions over, and obviously, you know, the rally has to go through a rage cycle to get the benefit here. But as it starts getting that benefit, you'll see that the HP differences between the two, between the rally and the garrison, become extremely pronounced, right? And I'll just show you a couple quick shots of how big this difference can get. Okay, so what do I think about this tactic? Honestly, it reminds me a bit of the old Oath of Stormpeak Clone War tactic. Remember back in the day, the tactic was you charge this thing up on some Darklings, you trigger the clone, and you send the clone in to fight your enemies. The devs weren't really happy about that, so what they did is they nerfed this a bit. They made it that if you charge up the Oath of Stormpeak on Darklings, the clone doesn't get any merits. Of course, smart players figure out a way around that. They take a farm account, move it out of their warband, charge up the Oath of Stormpeak on their farm account, trigger the clone, send the clone in against the enemy. This is sort of the same thing, I think, in where the Kuma's effect is really intended to only target the enemy legions, but you're creating those enemy legions in order to essentially exploit this effect. Honestly, I think this is less bad than the Oath of Stormpeak problem because there is good counterplay to this effect, and that counterplay is control the field, right? If you can push your enemy off the field, even for a bit, you can break this effect, so there is a counter strategy to it. The downside, I think, is that right now, this strategy favors the rally a bit more than it favors the garrison, and how can I put this? Like, the rally's just so much stronger than the garrison right now because the rally leader can never die and the garrison leader dies often in a long fight. This is just another thing that tilts the field even more in favor of the rally. Now look, there is help on the way. The next heroes we're going to get are going to be infantry heroes. One of them will be a garrison leader. You know, we'll see how strong they are, but good bet they're pretty strong. So there is at least some garrison help coming. But I think as long as the garrison leader can die and the rally leader can't die, the field is really tilted in favor of the rally, especially since they've had all those new battle acceleration effects they put into the game. That just puts more pressure on the garrison than it does the rally these days. Now, look, I understand they're trying to fix the Bastion problem, and that does make Bastion fights a lot faster, so I am in favor of that. I just wish they'd come up with something that would balance the playing field between the rally and the garrison a bit more. Anyway, that's all I got for you today, and until next time, you stay classy, Belleron.